On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, Dylan Harper has committed to Rutgers, and TJ has been levitating all day. He's on cloud 10, 11. How many clouds are there? He's on the highest one.
I'm in the stars, brother.
TJ is one of the biggest days in Rutgers basketball history came on a night when Rutgers lost to Wake Forest by 19, and I don't think any Rutgers basketball fan gives one single shit about losing to Wake Forest. When you land the number 2 recruit in the country behind Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper has announced that he will be going to Rutgers. This is news, obviously, because the number 2 guy is going to Rutgers, but the number 3 guy in the country, Ace Bailey, had already committed to Rutgers. Rutgers now has the number 2 and the number 3 recruits in the country for a program that, to my knowledge, has really never landed anybody like this before.
No.
So this is coming out of nowhere to have 2 guys like this. We're going to talk to TJ about it, obviously. I'm going to let TJ do it, like, I don't know, just cream his pants for 20 minutes or whatever the hell is about to happen. But I imagine TJ is going to be fired up to talk about that. Speaking of Rutgers being blown out, and speaking of blowouts, Marquette blew out Texas on Wednesday. Certified cold-ass white boy Tyler Kolek was on one, dude. 28 points. 6 assists, 8 rebounds, 3 steals. It was a game that if you turned on late, you probably missed the most competitive part. Marquette loses at Wisconsin, bounces back nicely against Texas, kind of ran Texas off the floor. And speaking of cold-ass white boys, by the way, Marcus Damask and Cam Spencer put on a show in Madison Square Garden for the Jimmy V Classic on Tuesday night. That was a ton of fun. Illinois is they got a big one on Saturday at Tennessee. I've obviously talked a lot about Tennessee and Dalton Connect, and you know, I still believe in them long term. But this is going to be a big game because I think Illinois is one of the more interesting teams in the country, and they are sneakily putting something together and look very, very good, beating FAU. But just kind of the way they go, I talked about it when Ant Wright was on the show, but I just feel like the roller coaster is not going to be as intense with this Illinois team, and we'll find out soon enough. A lot of basketball left, but what I'm seeing out of them, I'm really, really liking so far. Also, joining us on the show, Sam Vecenie, friend of the program, has been on many, many times. Sam put out his 2024 big board, his first stab at the 2024 NBA draft, which, yeesh, it is bleak. I thought it might be of value to some people. I personally don't really care that much that the college basketball crop is not that great this year, and Sam and I will obviously get into it more. But the NBA prospects in college this year is bleak. But it's of value to some people, and a lot of NBA holes out there only care about college basketball as a minor league feeder. So I thought I'd get Sam on the show. He's put out his big board. We can go through some of the NBA prospects that do exist because, you know, there's nobody. I don't think right now you're pointing to anybody and saying he can change your franchise, but there are guys playing in college right now that will be on NBA rosters for a very long time. So Sam came on the show to talk about that and some other NBA stuff, Wemby and Chet, and the in-season tournament that's going on. That's been a ton of fun. And I don't know what the hell's going on with the Detroit Pistons. We talked about it a lot. So Sam's the best. Fun conversation with him coming up. But it might be a TJ heavy day. It might be a TJ heavy day. And there aren't a lot of TJ heavy days anymore because TJ is losing so much weight. But we are getting but we're going to get a TJ heavy day today talking about Dylan Harper. Let's get into it. All right, TJ. Dylan Harper to Rutgers. This was a decision that, I think it's not exactly a shock. We kind of knew that Dylan Harper was flirting with Rutgers for a while. His brother went there. His friend Ace Bailey had already committed. But at the same time, we had talked about the trolling, for lack of a better term, the just instigating he was doing online to make people lose their minds. Walk me through your emotions yesterday, just from start to finish. Did at any point you feel like you had it until the announcement was made, or were you just on pins and needles the whole day?
So everybody that I talked to was very, very confident, obviously, that this decision had been made a long time ago and that there was no way he wasn't coming. But so much bad has happened to Rutgers fans all time. Plenty of schools have bad luck, but the RU screw is a very real effect that we get fucked over more times than we don't get fucked over. Good things like this don't happen to us.
Yeah.
And when Woj tweets out 30 minutes before the announcement starts that it's official, he's coming, he's about to say that he's going to Rutgers, a big part of the back of my head was like, well, now he's going to Duke, and now I'm going to have to like fight Woj at Rough and Rowdy or something for our honor. I was panicked. I don't know. I don't know how to react because like this has never happened to us. It's never happened to most schools. The stats said that since they started like ESPN recruit trackings, schools have only gotten 2 guys in the top 5. This is the 4th time, and every other time was Duke.
Yeah.
The last time was Zion's class. Like this is not supposed to happen to a Rutgers.
Yeah, like that's the thing about basketball recruiting is Dylan Harper could very, very badly have wanted to go to Rutgers. He could love Rutgers.
Yeah.
He could, like everything he has ever said about Rutgers could be true. Every photo shoot where he's smiling with Rutgers could be true, and he still goes to Duke. Like that's how basketball recruiting. Or he's still at the last minute. Someone came in. Kansas was like, "What about us?" And he's like, "Damn, all right, I kind of have to do this."
Right.
So yeah, you're never fully confident until really he says it.
Correct.
Woj, I mean, we could talk about Woj. I as you know, and everyone who listens to the show and watches the show knows, I hate Woj so much, so much. But when Woj breaks the news that is massive news for this family, and this kid has set this whole thing up, and this is his one big moment in life, and Woj says, "Yeah, but what about me? Let me tweet it out before I give this kid his moment." There is like probably still a part of you that's like, what if Woj was right, but like Dylan Harper is so fucking mad that he's gonna now make Woj look like an idiot.
That's exactly what I thought. That was my exact thought. Was like, okay, cool, he's going to Duke now, and then I'm gonna look like a fucking huge idiot because Woj decided to like ruin this kid's moment. Yeah. And I will fight alongside the Harper family against Woj if I need to.
Yeah, they're fired up, dude.
Because Ron Harper is just straight up tweeting like, I will fight you next time I see you, and I'm going to see you soon, basically. It was the message that he got on Twitter. But no, I mean, obviously an unbelievable – people keep asking me, like, what's the NIL situation at Rutgers? I'm pretty sure it's not good enough to get 2 guys in the top 5, so I don't really have an explanation how – a fan tweeted like a mafia joke about how like backroom dealings in New Jersey. Like, it's just something that comes naturally. I don't really understand how in an NIL age we can like get 2 guys that play the way that they do. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really, but it's crazy. The recruiting rankings are Duke, Kentucky, and Rutgers for next year.
Well, the thing about having a father who played in the NBA, I don't necessarily know for sure whether this is the case, but maybe he doesn't care that much about money. Maybe like Ron Harper has made so much money in his NBA career, and Dylan Harper is like, I don't, of course I could have made more money somewhere else, but I trust that I'm gonna make it to the NBA. And at the end of the day, when I'm 80 years old and I look back on my life, am I going to be sad that I missed out on like $700,000 more had I gone to Duke or something? Right. Also, when I've already put like $400 million in the bank, probably not. Maybe he just wanted to, he's from the area, right?
Yeah, he went to Don Bosco.
Yeah, so like maybe he just wanted to stay home and play with his friend and all that sort of thing, and it all checks out. So expectations now. That's the problem. That's the
honestly,
that's
like
you're the dog chasing the mailman barking. Now you caught him.
We put out a quote card that I said see you in San Antonio in 2025, which is where the Final Four is that year. Like the roster is going to be super stacked. I don't like. Yeah. We have other guys too. Like Lathan Somerville is like a huge big body that's coming in next year. It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a very young roster, which is like not always the greatest thing to have. But Cliff could come back again next year if he wants to. Derek Simpson's gonna be third year. Yeah. He has another year. That's awesome. So like it could be if the like everything falls into the right place, like an actually very stacked Rutgers roster going into next season. No, I fully don't care about what happens this season anymore. Like, it is completely out of my mind. Whatever, like go have some fun, figure out how to work together. Gavin Griffiths get some shots up, but we're like 3 5-stars in the starting lineup next year, plus like an experienced big man. That's pretty good. This is Rutgers right now is in preseason. Yeah, like this whole season is literally practicing for Ace and Dylan to show up.
Yeah, right. So is Steve Peichel cut out for this? I don't mean to say is Steve Peichel a good basketball coach. Is Steve Peichel cut out for
the next level,
the limelight, the scrutiny, the Dylan Harper is averaging 13 points a game, right? And it's late December, and everyone's like, damn, dude, he's really fucking ruined this kid. I thought this kid was a 22-point-a-game guy. And even though Rutgers is, 10-2 at that point in the season, there's just maybe not controversy, but you know what scrutiny at every turn, every game. It's like, why isn't he getting more shots? Why is he getting the most potential out of these guys? Do you think he's cut out for that part?
Especially because of how like Thunderdome-ish the rack can get, and like next year, I'm assuming there's going to be scouts at every game. People are going to show up to see these guys play. Also, like, is Bronny still going to be at USC next year? We might get like a LeBron appearance at the rack.
Yeah, we would assume so. That Bronny would be. Oh shit, dude, that's right.
Yeah.
If Bronny's still at USC, the Big Ten.
Yeah,
classic Big Ten matchup. USC at Rutgers.
Yeah. So I don't like. It's going to be a lot of fucking pressure. Yeah. And like I think that Peichel, obviously the Peichel's the guy. He's awesome. Build a fucking statue. Him and Brandon Knight have done a preposterous job at recruiting that I don't think anybody saw coming 2 years ago. But I don't know. There's no way to tell because they haven't had an opportunity. Like beating Purdue is the only example of like them performing in big games.
Yeah, I think the concern. And I'm sorry to
no yeah.
I'm not trying to rain on the parade. You should be very excited. I'm just trying to contextualize all this. I think the concern is less about having the spotlight on game, because that's all good. Like having like a fan base that's fired up, and like now you guys are playing on ESPN a little more instead of ESPN2, or you're on Fox instead of Big Ten Network Plus. Like having more buzz around the program is that will be a good thing, even though there will be more pressure on him. I think like that sort of stuff is not a bad thing. The thing you got to look out for is like the unseen, unthought of stuff, which is like he's very used to conducting a practice where there are 4 or 5 people who aren't outsiders but are just like not in the program right this second, so to speak. Like there are former players, or there are guys who live in Jersey that are just like popping into practice, or NBA guy, whatever. Right now at Rutgers, you probably have like 5 to 10 at any given practice, and next year you're going to have like 40 to 50 at every practice. There's going to be scouts there, and they're just going to be like someone's cousin wants to pop in and dap up everybody, and like you can't say no to him because that someone is someone at Rutgers, and you're like, I guess you can bring your cousin. That's the sort of shit that becomes a distraction for coaches that aren't used to it. And Peichel's awesome. I think he's a great basketball coach, and he's proven that. It's just that's always my fear. I had the same fear when Andy Enfield signed Isaiah Collier and Bronny and all that, and Rodman signed. Like USC's doing okay this year, but like it's I don't know. It's a different beast. It's a completely different beast to bring that on. But damn, this is exciting times for Rutgers. Where does this rank? I mean, like what is?
I was trying to think about that, like, as terms of, like, fandom high. It's, like, beating Purdue, if you want to roll back football to 2006, beating Louisville, and then this is probably that. It's probably 3 all time, is getting these guys on the same team.
Yeah.
Like, everybody in the country. Yeah. Which, by the way, that was my other point is I need Peichel to get us into some early season tournaments next year right now, because I can't have them, like, playing a softball. You guys got to be in like they do every single year. Put us in the Jimmy V next year. You got
to be in the Jimmy V Classic.
Yeah. There's spots open. Get us into whatever competitive off-season or non-conference stuff we can right now, because I can't have them like rolling into Big Ten, having played like Central Connecticut State and Maine.
Yeah,
and then get smoked.
Yeah, the Maui field's already
set
locked in.
We were rumored for it, but
yeah, that would have been awesome. You got to get in the Jimmy V, and then you can just play that clip over and over and over.
Yeah,
your family, your religion. In the Green Bay Packers.
Rutgers basketball.
Rutgers basketball. Yeah, you guys have like what a weird history for that program.
Yeah.
To have Jimmy V connections, Dickie V
connections, a Final Four appearance.
Final Fours. Yeah. All the talent that comes out of Jersey.
And goes everywhere but Jersey.
Never stays.
Which they're all going to come back now and want
that'd
be Karl-Anthony Towns, Kyrie Irving.
That would be sick, dude. I would love Seton Hall's got something going a little bit.
We got a rivalry game this weekend.
Yeah, I would love for that rivalry. That's like that'd be big.
Oh, we're gonna fucking smoke them next year.
Put that out. Put that quote card out. We're gonna smoke you next year, not this year.
Right. This year doesn't. Who cares? Like this Saturday, whatever.
Get your licks in while you can, because we're gonna beat the fuck out of you next year. I'm happy for you, man.
Thanks.
I'm happy. I feel like
This podcast started with you causing me ultimate pain with Rutgers. So it's
yeah,
good to finally get on the other side of the coin.
Before we really knew each other, we started the show, and I basically I didn't really talk to you much outside of the show because it felt like we were doing the show at all times.
Yeah.
And all we would talk about, all I would say to you is like, Rutgers is good, dude. Don't worry about it. You guys are going to make the tournament. Of course you're fine. Of course you're going to be fine. And then you missed the NCAA tournament, and then I was like, damn, not a great first impression for me with TJ. That I promised him Rutgers would make the tournament. But you're back now, and
it's a new day.
I'll be cheering for Rutgers as long as you don't beat Ohio State. That's all I ask. Every other game, I'll cheer for Rutgers. All right, enough about that. Let's talk to Sam Vecenie about all things NBA, really. But we spent a lot of time talking about the college basketball crop of NBA prospects, which is not great. But there's one guy very high on Sam Vecenie's board that's got me fired up, and I'm excited to talk to him about it. So here you go. Here's Sam Vecenie. All right, Sam Vecenie's here, wearing the Ohio State hat. That got me going, man. I'm excited to see you repping the Buckeyes.
Every time I come on this show, I get told, "Oh, like closet Ohio State grad, never shows it." So I have a hat imported to Australia from the U.S., not just for this show because I needed an Ohio State hat, but I mean, come on, I had to wear it. I had to show the love for the Buckeyes. They're playing great so far, obviously.
Yep.
I love the school.
Yep.
I love the school. I hope you know I love the school.
I know you
based
love
off
the school.
Your reaction.
No, I know you love the school, which is why I want you to rep the school a little bit more, Sam. And yeah, I mean, like for a lot of people, it's not a great time to be a Buckeye because we've lost 3 straight to Michigan in football. But you and I are looking at the hardwood, and we're looking at you like this team as much as I do because like we're all I think like every Ohio State basketball fan is in the same spot where we're like, this team seems fun, this team seems talented. I really love Bruce Thornton, Roddy Gale, but also it's December. I've been here before.
Yeah, no, I love them. I've really loved Bruce Thornton for a while. I love Roddy Gale. I think they have some real dudes, right? Like they have actual real talent. And I feel like the thing was last season that like they were always building toward this season and next season, right?
Yeah.
They had this really great freshman class come in last season. Guys like Roddy Gale, Bruce Thornton, Felix Okpara. And they were hoping that by the time the season rolled around, they got some minutes into these guys that the Buckeyes were going to be here and where they are. And, if these guys end up returning to Columbus, I think this is a potential Final Four team in, 2025. I don't know about 2024.
Yeah.
But I'm really, really excited. Like I am so pumped about this team, and I think they're really good.
That's all I've ever wanted from you, Sam. I think that might be the interview. That's it. Thank you for joining.
That's it.
It's good to have you back on the show. That's all I've ever asked. No, we got to talk about. So you put your big board out this week. This is the first 2024 big board, right? Correct? Is this your first edition of the?
Yeah, it was the first one where I released like where I kind of am on the class. I've been trying to hold off as long as I could. I felt like I had to do one before Christmas. I just needed to. Like I thought the Athletic might fire me otherwise. So I tried to wait as long as I could. It's been a slog so far in terms of draft prospects. I've enjoyed the college basketball season. I think all of these games are wildly competitive because the talent level is so flat, from team to team, and because there are guys that have the extra COVID year still, everything like that. But it's been a slog trying to find NBA guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna point out for the people the funniest parts of your big board.
Oh,
so first of all, you mentioned in the preamble that there are 0 tier 1 or tier 2 guys in this draft. So you obviously tier your guys for every draft, and
I'm like not stingy with those grades. Like I've had like 16 of them, 17 of them in the last 4 drafts, something like that. Like it's not like I'm out here going, oh, like I'm, the biggest snub in the world about prospects. Like I've got, only 2 tier 1 and tier 2 guys in the last 4 years each. I give these things out, and this year
there's just nobody.
It's tough to find them.
It's bleak. Well, this cracked me up. I'm going to read verbatim what you wrote. This is a year when I somewhat regret not working for a team, since I would only be responsible for having to select a couple of players as opposed to having something of an opinion on 100.
Yeah,
that cracked me up, dude.
Look, if I worked for a team, I'd have to have the opinion, but I wouldn't have to share it publicly.
Yeah,
that'd be nice. That'd be good.
And you can't exactly just put out your big board and be like, to be completely honest, all these dudes suck. So let's try to find some silver linings. Let's try to find some things to be excited about. No tier 1, tier 2 guys. I think I assume that, in layman's terms, what you're saying is there's nobody as of right now. A lot can change. A lot of basketball left between now and June, but as of right now, there's nobody you're pointing to saying that guy is going to save a franchise or that guy is going to be a guy. Is that a fair way of assessing it?
Yeah, and look, I ended up I think I had Scotty Barnes 5th in that class, and I ended up with a very high tier 3 grade on him. So these guys come up and become, all-star caliber players, right? Nobody had a tier 1 or tier 2 grade on Tyrese Halliburton, and we're about to watch him tonight in the in-season tournament, and I think he's been a top 5 player in the NBA so far this season. So it's not like these guys can't emerge, and frankly, somebody in this class will emerge into an all-star in the NBA. But in my opinion, what makes an NBA draft class strong, weak, anything like that is the ability to identify who those players are going to be.
Yeah.
Right. You can do all of the homework that you can, and you can try and understand the intel on the back end to the point that you can. I think a lot of people, including myself, love Tyrese Maxey. I had a lottery grade on Tyrese Maxey. I did not see Tyrese Maxey being an all-star by the time his rookie contract ended. Right.
Yeah.
So, you're dealing with evaluating teenagers, and evaluating teenagers is always going to be an inexact science. So that's what makes all of this very, very difficult in a lot of ways. And that's what makes the strength of a draft, in my opinion, the actual ability to confidently evaluate who those guys are going to be that can emerge into superstar level players.
All right, so I want to ask you. I want to throw some stuff at you because there are a handful of things that jumped out to me, and I'm not saying you're right, you're wrong, or otherwise. It was just oh, that's interesting.
I'm not either.
Yeah. I just thought, that's interesting. I would love to ask Sam more about that. So the first thing that jumped out to me was coming into this college basketball season. It felt like there were, I don't know how many number 1 players there were in this class. I know Ron Holland was number 1 at one point, and then I think he decided to not go to college, and then everyone's like, never mind, he's not number 1. Let's go back to DJ Wagner, and then Isaiah Collier. You want to be number 1? Anyway, my understanding was it was Isaiah Collier and DJ Wagner, and it was in the eye of the beholder as to which one you like better, but they were kind of both the number 1 guy-ish, whatever. And I'm looking at your big board, Sam, and you have Isaiah Collier at number 1. DJ Wagner, you have to scroll all the way down to number 32 in the second round. So I guess the question is, what is it about those two guys that has created such a divergent path? When coming to college, it felt like they were 1 and 2 in some order.
Yeah, so for me, they weren't, I guess I would say. I've never been quite as high on DJ personally in regard to his translation to the NBA specifically, right? The guys that tend to have a lot of success in the NBA tend to be guys that have really high levels of skill in terms of feel for the game, shooting ability, ability to decelerate, gain separation from their man consistently, the ability to be real high level, 3-level scorers, and then also be able to mix passing and playmaking with that. When I've seen DJ Wagner previously, it's felt like a lot of driving toward the rim, a guy that can create mid-range jumpers, but I've always been a little bit hesitant on what the actual percentages are from the mid-range when he created those shots. And then I've never really seen him as a high-level 3-point shooter. So you throw that together, and he's a scoring guard. He is not a primary playmaker and distributor for his teammates, right? He is always been a guy who's going to go get you a bucket. So I've kind of looked at that throughout the course of his career, and I've always thought he was a really good player. Don't get me wrong, but I always thought that top 5 prospect in his class was probably a bit aggressive for him personally. And I say this as somebody who had Justin Edwards as a top 5 player, and that looks wrong right now too. Right. So it's not saying I'm right or wrong. It's just where I was on these guys. Isaiah Collier, again, a guy that I liked a little bit more physical. I thought that he is a little bit more explosive and strong and able to like convert that power into, the ability to finish through contact, absorb contact when guys at the rim bump him, still rise up through that contact at the rim. I hate the way USC is kind of using him. Like they're using him in a lot of these weird like post up mismatches where they just try and get him the ball on the block and, let him operate. And that's never really been what he's been successful at. Like he is a downhill point guard who can make decisions, be it to get to the rim, be it to, kick out to his teammates from to behind the 3-point line, or dump off passes to their to the dunker spot, or hit his roller. His ability to play at speed has always been what's impressive to me. But USC, for instance, the Gonzaga game was perfect. When I went through that tape, I counted in the first half, he had 12 potential assists to his teammates. His teammates missed a bunch of shots in that game.
Yeah.
And then in the second half, they used him more as a scorer, used him more as like a post player, and he looked terrible. So I don't know why they're doing that, but I like Isaiah a little bit more. And I still wouldn't say like Isaiah's been particularly strong this year either. He's turning the ball over like 5 times a game.
Yeah, the USC is a weird. I'm not exactly surprised by it. Like they're just a weird team. I can't quite figure out. They're not bad, but they're not like, it's not all gelling. But they're also, I don't know, because I've been impressed with Isaiah Collier as a whole, but he doesn't. I said when he went to USC, I was like, he doesn't really feel like the fact that he's like the number one guy in a class feels. He feels like he should be like 12th in the class, but it's not a knock on the kid. It's just like, dang, this is. I remember watching that McDonald's game. I kind of had the same thoughts. So one thing I do want to talk about now that I'm looking at your big board here is Reed Sheppard. While we're on the Kentucky guys, so DJ Wagner's not it. Reed Sheppard has kind of come out of nowhere, but not really. We all not completely out of nowhere, but like he was a highly thought of recruit, but I think there was maybe an understanding he would be here at least multiple years, if not like 3 or 4,
we just need to not ignore the elephant in the room here. Like he was a maybe 6'3" white kid going to Kentucky. Right. Like, let's just be real about it.
And not just going to Kentucky. He's going to Kentucky with like 12, it felt like 12 other guys who are 5 stars, and he's just going to get lost in the shuffle. And like, the kid has talent, but like, there's going to be a pecking order, and I'm sure Cal promised the Wagner family that DJ's going to get all the run, and Dillingham's he promised the same to him. And Reed Sheppard is just going to be the Kentucky boy, that's just happy to be here a little bit in his freshman year, and we'll push him over here as we're letting these other guys get all the shine. And holy shit, he's so good. And I, as a guy who's not an NBA draft evaluator, I just start drinking the Kool-Aid where I'm like, is this guy the best player on Kentucky? And then I'm like, no, that can't be right. That's insane. And then I'm watching Kentucky more, and I'm like, he definitely is. And then I watch Kentucky more, and I'm like, he's a first-round pick. And then I don't know. And I'm starting to go crazy, Sam, trying to figure out how good Reed Sheppard actually is. So to see him at number 6 on your big board, is this real? Is this a real thing? Like, are NBA guys like actually talking about Reed Sheppard being a lottery guy this year?
I would say that Reed Sheppard is the person that I have gotten the most calls about this year from NBA people. Wow. Not because like they have him at number 1 or anything, right? It's because we're all trying to figure it out more than anything else. I tend to love these guys, right? Like guys that play with elite level feel for the game, very clearly just understand how to play, can play both on and off the ball, because in the NBA, you need that ability to play both on and off the ball in order to have a floor, right? So like a guy in the NBA that's struggling right now is Talen Horton-Tucker. He's in his 5th year. He's a guy that never has really learned to play off the ball because he can't shoot it really. You need to be able to shoot it. You need to be able to make decisions quickly. Reed Sheppard hits all these super impressive hit-ahead passes in transition. He moves the ball quickly on reversals, across the perimeter. He's constantly got his eyes up. He's constantly looking. Like there are so many passes where he just doesn't even dribble. He doesn't care to dribble, right? Yeah. The thing that NBA teams are trying to figure out is like, can he play point guard like full time in the NBA? I'm not totally sure yet on that. He played well against UNC Wilmington. They moved him into a little bit more of that role against Miami in the second half, and I thought he played pretty well in that game too. So it'll be interesting to see if he can do that. But obviously shooting like 60% from 3 I don't think that'll hold up. But the other piece of it is
what
like,
if it does? What if it does?
He's I know, right?
Yeah, what if
He's an incredible blocks and steals guy defensively.
Yeah.
UNC Wilmington tried to attack him late in that game, and they had some success doing that. Like, he needs to improve a little bit in terms of his on-ball defense, but I think that you put all of the pieces together, and NBA teams are like trying to determine all this. Like, I've talked to multiple different like high up NBA people in front offices that have Reed Sheppard in their top 3. I've talked to multiple high up people in NBA front offices that are like, this guy is like a late first round pick. Don't know if he's a one and done. Everybody's like trying to figure this out right now. There's no consensus on Reed Sheppard. And
oh my God.
Again, like, we can't ignore, like, this is a 6'3", 6'2", something like that white kid, and nobody anticipated this. And frankly, that's probably why nobody anticipated this. So like, I've probably spent 7 hours on the phone at this point talking to different NBA executives, trying to figure out who the best comparison is for Reed Sheppard. It's like a parlor game at this point.
And you can only use white guys. That's the hard part, is because you can't compare white guys to black guys. That's like the number one rule of basketball comparison. So you're you're limited.
It's at least like 15% of how Bill Simmons became Bill Simmons
right.
and like being famous, or the cross-racial comparisons, right?
Yeah.
But like, I've had someone bring up Jalen Brunson. I've had somebody bring up Austin Reeves, DeAnthony Melton. Someone brought up Halliburton. Halliburton's just way bigger.
Yeah.
Like, you can look across the board. The best one I think I've heard is George Hill, the former Pacers guard. George was super long though. Like that one, like, just in terms of the way that he plays is kind of similar, but like,
wasn't he more athletic, or is he just not white?
By the time he got to the NBA, I don't think he was quite as athletic, but when he was at IUPUI, he was like dominant.
Well, I remember
in terms of getting to the rim.
George Hill is like 2 years older than me, and he's an indie guy. And I remember, like, I don't think we ever played against each other in high school, but we were, I'm very aware of who George Hill has been for my entire life, and I remember him being pretty athletic. But again, I don't know. That's what fucks you up when a guy like Reed, when cold ass white boys come along, Sam. It just really it gives you pause, because you're like,
it's right, because like Reed's not a bad athlete. Like,
exactly.
He blocks 3-pointers,
right,
and like, he's able to get up in transition and like move. He's not a great athlete by NBA standards. Like, we don't need to pretend, but he's not a terrible athlete.
Yeah. Speaking of cold-ass white boys, we might as well rip this Band-Aid off, too. Dalton Knecht is the other guy that I've fallen in love with early that I didn't know a ton about, and he transfers from Northern Colorado to Tennessee. And we have a Tennessee guy here, Big T. You'll never guess what the T stands for. He's a big Tennessee fan. That going into the college basketball season, he's trying to serve me the Kool-Aid on Tennessee, and he's like, no, you don't understand. We have a guy coming in that's a scorer. And I was like, you told me that last year with Tyreek Key. Like, I'm not trying to hear all that right now. He's like, no, you don't understand. And then I watched that exhibition game of Tennessee versus Michigan State, and I was like, holy shit. And I've been on Dalton Knecht ever since, and people that listen to the show are sick of me talking about him, but I have you here now, and I got to talk about it. Dalton Knecht, his NBA future. He is an elite NBA. He's got all the NBA tools scoring wise, right? Like, I mean, like, where do you poke holes in his offense? Like, off the dribble a little bit? Like, what? He's an NBA scorer, is he not?
Yeah, like, I don't think he's going to be creating shots out of ball screens off the dribble, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just not going to be who he is. But I love the way Tennessee uses him. They try to get him, into all sorts of different, they run veer actions, they'll run flares for him. They'll try and get early offense coming off of screens with him and get him that initial advantage. And then once he has that advantage, he can either shoot because he's a really high level shooter, or he can drive to the rim in a straight line, right? Like, he's not breaking dudes off the bounce. He's not going to be like an isolation scorer in the NBA or anything. Having said that, like, have you watched Duncan Robinson this season in the NBA yet, Mark?
He's been cooking.
Duncan's like out here like running ball screens now and trying to size up real NBA centers that can move.
What
like,
happened?
Switches.
Can you help me understand Duncan's career arc? Because like, I think they were done with him. I thought it was like Duncan.
I did too.
Duncan had a fun run, but like he's never going to see the floor in Miami again. And then suddenly he's back. I can't make any sense of it.
Yeah, I've kind of assumed that they would just like use him as a trade chip because he makes $18 million a year or whatever. But he's like way too good now to actually use him as a trade chip. He's like a 45% 3-point shooter who can play in ball screens now. It's ridiculous. He's been amazing this year. But back to Dalton Connect. The thing that Dalton does that I think is a little bit different than most of the players like in this, white dude shooter archetype that are 6'6" is he's more vertical as an athlete, and he can really like kind of change the angle on rim protectors when going up for shots at the basket. Like he'll go up with his right and like looks like he's going up for like a floater up over the top, and then he'll like adjust in midair and like throw up like a finger roll. He's creative around the basket in that way. He's a really interesting prospect. Defensively, it's a real problem. But I know. Offensively, he's got a lot of tools for sure.
Yeah, but they don't play defense in the NBA. That's what my uncle tells me all the time when we get together.
I love it.
Let me tell you,
Thanksgiving table.
The Thanksgiving table.
The Titus Thanksgiving table.
They don't play it in the NBA. That's why I honestly believe that they play more defense in college than they do in the NBA.
They care about it more.
Yeah, there's more heart. Another guy I want to talk to you about. I'm excited about because I feel like he's just got game, and I can't quite. I don't know how they're going to channel it and get the most out of him at the NBA level, but I just like watch him. He pops off the screen at me as like that guy can hoop. It's Jacoby Walter at Baylor. He just seems to be a natural scorer. I feel like Baylor has Scott Drew's done a great job of positioning his program as like an oasis for guards. It's like, just come here, I'll let you cook. That's what you do at Baylor, and then you go on to the NBA, and that's the path now. He seems to like figured out a recipe for that. Jacoby, just riff on Jacoby Walter for me. Like, he is that a fair assessment? He's a dude that he's a bucket, but like what are the downsides to him? What are the things that he does at an elite NBA level? Would you say all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think he's definitely a real shot maker for sure. Like I believe in that dude being able to knock down shots, be it off the catch or even like tough mid-range jumpers. The guy he actually kind of reminds me of is, do you remember Kentavious Caldwell-Pope at Georgia at all?
Oh, yeah.
Like it was kind of similar where he'd be creating in ball screens to like get to a lot of mid-range shots, and he'd shoot over the top of dudes and it would go in. It's harder to do that once you get to the NBA. Like it's just very, very difficult because these guys are longer, they're more athletic. I think what NBA scouts want to see more of is just like, okay, is he going to be able to do this the whole season in college, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't separate a ton from his man, but you're right that like just knows how to play, good defender, really good shot maker, always on balance. That's the thing that stands out to me. Like he's just always ready to go up for his pull up, always in position to be able to do that, plays off of 2 feet really, really well. Defensively, I think he's pretty solid as well. He's consistent. He's able to take on tough assignments. It really does remind me a lot of Caldwell-Pope, and Caldwell-Pope went, I think like 8th, something like that in his class. So yeah, it'll be kind of a similar thing to me.
More general NBA stuff. What the hell happened to the Pistons? What's going, like last time I paid attention to the Detroit Pistons, they had a long list of highly drafted guys, which I know that's not how it always works in the NBA, but it like speaks to like a young core of potential, and like if you could just hit on like 3 or 4 of these guys, you're going to be a fun young team. And Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey and Duran and Thompson and Killian Hayes, who I know is not as good as people expected, but it's still Wiseman. Like maybe if they can get a little bit of, I don't know. Like I look at the roster, and I'm like, all of these dudes are drafted very, very high. Some of them are bust, some of them aren't. I don't know, but like it just speaks to the potential that could be there. And then all of a sudden, I look up and the Pistons have lost 18 in a row now. Is that like what the?
Yeah.
What is going on?
I think that there's a difference between like being a good evaluator and building a team that fits together and like makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Troy Weaver was in Oklahoma City and it was always renowned as like a good evaluator. Like people will tell you like he went to bat for Russell Westbrook there, like in the draft room, right? And like was really excited about it because if you remember, like it was not consensus to take Russell Westbrook at number 4 overall, right? So I think that the team that he has put together in Detroit does not actually fit together. Like I also don't think that Monty Williams has put together the best lineups.
Yeah.
Because Cade Cunningham, I think, is a really good player. Like, I don't know if he's going to be the dude that I certainly thought he was and that every NBA evaluator and team thought he was, but he's still really good. And I think that when you watch them, it's like he's playing basketball in a phone booth because they start like for, the first 12 games, 13 games of the year, they started Killian Hayes, guy that like NBA teams just don't guard, like don't care about him as a shooter. Asar Thompson, total non-shooter at this point, like has multiple like hideous air balls per week, it feels like. Isaiah Stewart, guy that can actually like shoot now. Like if you remember him at Washington, like was just a post-up guy.
Yeah, right.
Isaiah's like developed the ability to shoot, but not to the point where teams are like, oh yeah, if the option is sending another help guy same side to Cade Cunningham or leaving Isaiah Stewart open to shoot, we're going to leave Isaiah Stewart open to shoot. And then Jalen Duren, who's a great rim runner, offensive rebounder, but again, not a great shooter.
Right.
Can't
right.
shoot.
Yeah.
So then, Jaden Ivey, a guy that I really like and I've actually been really impressed with, not a great shooter. And they've been like fucking around with Jaden Ivey's minutes.
Yeah,
like, he was
I
the
saw
11th
that.
man in the game yesterday. He played, I think, more minutes than anybody off the bench, but it's just like, okay, you're putting him in 11th and then you're playing him more minutes than anybody else off the bench. Like, what does that tell you? It tells you that he earned those minutes while he was in the game, because otherwise, Monty probably would have just fucking yanked him, right?
Yeah.
Nothing in Detroit makes any sense. I don't think they've been well coached this year. I don't think that the roster makes sense because they have very little shooting around those guys. Bojan Bogdanovic is back. He's played 2 or 3 games now, and it's easier. But they're a train wreck.
Yeah,
it's truly hard to watch.
It's very frustrating because I would have assumed that they were not. I'm not stupid enough to think that they were going to like compete for a title, but it was like, yeah, you look at the roster, and if you are a fan of college basketball, or never mind that, you just pay any attention to the NBA draft, you're like, oh yeah, that guy went top 5, that guy went top 5, there's a top 5 pick, there's another, hey, whoa, yeah, lottery. You're like, at some point, you would assume if even 2 or 3 of these guys were as good as we expected, the team should be good. But yeah, when you point out that none of them can shoot, you do have to make shots to win at that level, Sam. I don't know if you're aware of this, but that is one of the keys to winning.
You have to make shots to win
games. Yeah, it's a make or miss league. Obviously, the rookie talk is Wemby and Chet. What are like realistic evaluations of them? Like the Wembys. I think the last time you came on here, I was just tongue in cheek, but maybe not. I don't even know anymore. Half the time, I can never tell if I'm serious or not. Talking about how Wemby, like the bar has been set so high, there's no possible way he can eclipse the expectation. When you have a guy like Woj saying he's the greatest prospect in a sports history, and you're like, all right, well, there's no way that's going to actually happen. So yeah, you might point to that and be like, yeah, the Spurs kind of stink. Wemby's not exactly averaging 30 and 10 and 10. But he's also having a great rookie season. But also Chet is playing well, and the Thunder are more interesting. Like, what is like a realistic? It doesn't have to be binary bust or like GOAT. It's like somewhere in the middle, obviously. Like, give me a realistic. Now that we've seen them on an NBA court, what we can expect from both of those guys.
Oh, I think they're both going to be like Hall of Famers.
Just as good.
Just to be real
just
about
as
it.
good. Yeah.
I have no concerns about either of them. Like, Chet Holmgren has been unbelievable this season. Like, if you look at some of the impact metrics where like those all-in-one stats where you have to do a bunch of math and shit, some of them have him as like a top 6 guy in the league right now.
Wow.
And I think that's way aggressive and not accurate. But I do think he's like a borderline all-star in year 1 already.
Wow.
He's been amazing. He has been awesome on defense for them. He's super creative. He unlocks so much because of the ability to shoot. So he spaces the court out for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's the best driver currently in the NBA. And then defensively, his ability to block shots, protect the rim, rotate from the weak side, also just be incredible positionally defensively. He's been fantastic for them across the board. And then Wemby is in, another really ill-fitting situation, in my opinion. Like Greg Popovich when you watched Jeremy Sohan at Baylor, did you ever get the impression that that guy was a point guard?
No, dude. No.
Like, how many dribbles do you think Jeremy Sohan had at Baylor? Like over under 100.
Yeah, but that like kind of fucks me up sometimes because I'm like, I know what I know, but also if Greg Popovich thinks he's a point guard, then am I an idiot? Because like I never,
I know.
Like, do I not know ball? But then like if I think that I do know ball, then I'm basically saying Greg fucking Popovich doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, what a bizarre situation. But yeah, why is Sohan playing point guard? That makes no sense.
I don't know either, man. I think that they're trying to find a way to like play super big around Wemby and then have these like 3 long perimeter defenders at times. And Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell missed some time throughout the course of the season here, but he was in very early. And then Keldon Johnson that can fight over the top. Vassell and Keldon have not been great defensively in the NBA, which is an issue in and of itself. But you could play 6'5", 6'9", 6'6" across the backcourt, and then you have Wemby at the 4 or the 5, and then an open position basically. Yeah. You could play Zach Collins at center. You could play a real point guard if you want to. I think they need a real point guard. I think Trey Jones has been fine this year. I don't know if he's an average NBA starter or anything, but he's been okay. I think their minutes have looked a lot more competent and better when he's been on the court, but Wemby is still making it work on some level, at least individually. It's just that the team is not very good around him. Yeah. So
I just pulled up the Rookie of the Year odds, and I FanDuel's the first one that popped up, so I'm going off of that. It says Chet Holmgren is minus 165, Victor Wembanyama is plus 120, and number 3 on Rookie of the Year odds is Jaime Jaquez at plus 5,000.
Yeah. By the way, like I would have Jaime at 3 right now.
Yeah, sure. He's been awesome. Great. Well, I mean, when he was drafted by the Heat, I was like, that's such an obvious. Like, I don't even know if Heat culture is a thing, and I know we're at the point as in the media, or at least most of us are, but we're rolling our eyes at the idea of Heat culture and all that shit. But at the same time, if you do want to believe in the idea of the Heat having a certain type of culture, Jaime Jaquez is that dude that you plug into that culture. But that's hilarious that it's the first week of December and the race is over. It's one of those two guys. It's Chet and Wemby and everybody else. This in-season tournament going on. So we're recording this before they're actually about to tip off here in about 20 minutes. So nothing Samurai say counts based on that's the caveat. Like, we're putting this out tomorrow morning, Sam. So if we're saying I basically want to talk to you about the Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton and how awesome he is. And if the Pacers lose by 40 tonight, I can't be held. You can't hold that against me. That doesn't count. But anyway, having said that, the Pacers are in this in-season tournament. I guess before we get to the Pacers, just the tournament as a whole, is this a success to you? Do you feel like this was what the NBA had in mind and that it's working and that they have something here?
1,000%. Like, I don't know about the courts. Like, they'll figure that out, whether or not that makes sense. But 100%, I think the in-season tournament is great. I think that it really, really has led to look, like there haven't been every game has not been some incredible down to the wire, awesome game. I mean, the Celtics and Bulls, in the last game of the pool play or whatever, that got a lot of headlines because the Celtics were intentionally fouling Andre Drummond up 30 because point differential was like the difference was the tiebreaker. So not every game's been like incredible, but I think it's definitely led to an increased intensity across early season basketball, which is really, really good. Certainly if you watch that Celtics Pacers game in the quarterfinals, like you could see like that shit mattered to the Pacers. It definitely, I think, mattered to the Celtics. $500,000. Like, look, people can say whatever about, oh my God, all these dudes make a shit ton of money. And what is $5,000 to that, $500,000 to them, but it's still a real amount of money.
That's a lot of money. Like,
let's not get it twisted. Like, a lot of these dudes did not grow up in the strongest environments financially. So you put $500,000 in front of them, they're going to go. Yeah. Like, they are going to play. Like, and then you give them something to actually compete toward and like really win. That's like in a shorter timeline than an 82 game season. These dudes are fucking competitive. Like, that's how you get to the NBA most of the time. Like, I don't know about some, like, I'm not going to name names, but like some of these guys might not be like wildly competitive, but by and large, if you're like an NBA starter and you give a shit, you're going to be competitive and you're going to go for it, just in terms of wanting to win this thing that's been put in front of you. So I think it's been a huge success. I love what they're doing with it. I hope that they blow it out and make it even bigger and better next year.
Yeah, I think what you said there at the end is it for me. Like the money is cool, but I think ultimately it's just that they have something to actually play for that's not 6 months away. Like it's not like throughout the slog of the regular season, you're like, all right, I get that, like, if we won tonight, that would help our seeding in the playoffs that are forever away. But, like, what do I – but when you put a trophy in front of competitors and you say, you win tonight, you get to play for this tomorrow or whatever, I think the competitive nature comes out. And I am, by and large, an NBA hater. I don't mean to be, but it just, like, more often than not, like, it seems like the NBA makes decisions, and I'm like, I don't like that. And part of being a hater, Sam, is giving credit where due. That's how you can't be a credible hater unless you – tip your cap when the good stuff comes along. And when they announced the in-season tournament, I was a skeptic, just because, like, I didn't think that the players would care that much. I don't know, like the way the players were talking about it, I was like, oh no, this is not going to work. When the players were like, what is it? What are we doing? Huh? But yeah, ultimately it comes down to, like, if they give a shit, I'll give a shit, and they seem to be giving a shit. The courts are hideous. They're horrendous. I still don't understand pool play. They got to figure that out. Like, that was very confusing. Yeah. I don't love the idea of, like, the interspersing, like, non-tournament games in between, you're watching the regular season, you're like, oh, it's the in-season tournament, and then you turn on your TV like 2 nights later and it's like not a tournament game. And then we're back to that part was confusing. But once we got to the knockout part, and it's like you win, you move on, you lose, you go home. Right. And especially that Pacers Celtics game, that was intense and it was awesome. And I'll give the NBA credit. And I'm sure the semifinals tonight are going to be awesome. But yeah, before I let you go, go ahead.
Seriously, like, I have 2 fucking college degrees. If I have to reach out to John Hollinger to be like, hey, so what happens if this team wins this game? How many points does this team have to win by? How the fuck do these teams advance? Who is advancing on literally the last day of pool play? Yeah. Like, if I have no idea what's happening there and I do this professionally and, like, have a master's degree, when, like, not all NBA fans, like, have that, then we need to, like, fucking figure something out. In terms of that.
The one downside to all this, though, is it does kind of frustrate me that it does take this to get them to care. Like, I don't, but whatever. You count your blessings. But, like, I'm watching the Pacers Celtics games and I'm like,
you're just you needed to throw in that little hint.
I am. Like, I'm watching the Pacers Celtics game. I'm like, this is awesome. I won't lie. This is awesome. It's December NBA basketball and I'm locked in and I'm cheering for the Pacers like I've never cheered in December before. But then after the game, I'm just like, why can't all games be like this, man? Like, what the hell? What are we doing? Like, And I just get frustrated.
Want 3 in-season
tournaments. Yes, I want the entire regular season to be in-season tournament. Make the
like, why don't they make the whole damn play
out of the black box? Exactly. Before I do let you go, we have to talk about the Pacers. And again, if the Bucks smack the Pacers around tonight, it doesn't count. We're just dismiss all of that. This doesn't count. As of right now, the Indiana Pacers are winning the in-season tournament. We are going. I'm saying we now. That's how you know I love this team. We are going to win the in-season tournament. I remember growing up in Central Indiana, dreaming of seeing the Pacers someday win the in-season tournament, and I'll be damned, we're right there on the doorstep. Talk to me about Tyrese Halliburton. How good? I said. Maybe a month ago I was talking about, like, the start the Pacers were off to and this offense is humming and, like, they're very fun. And I made a comment that, like, part of what makes them fun is that they do have an obvious best player in Tyrese Halliburton, but he's not a guy who's, like, an upper echelon legacy type guy, like all-time legend of the game. He's very, very good. He's an all-star, but he's not, like, one of those guys. And then since I said that, like, a month ago, I've started just, like, recalibrating that comment, and I'm like, he might be a legacy. Like, this guy's fucking insane. Give me a realistic evaluation of how good Tyrese Halliburton actually is right now, because I'm drinking all the Kool-Aid, Sam.
No, he's that. Like, he's a legacy guy, like 100%. Like, I don't even think it's a question. If you had to name, like, first team All-NBA right now, he'd be first team All-NBA. I think he's been one of, seriously, the 5 best players in the league.
Let's go. Let's go.
He is the driving force right now behind the best offense in NBA history by like 4 points per 100 possessions. Like they aren't just like setting that record right now or like on pace to set that record. They're blowing it out of the water. It was the Kings last year set it. And they set it by like a couple of point, like a point or something like that. The Pacers are just like elevating this into like new ground, and it's because of him.
Let's
like,
go.
Seriously, do you know what he's shooting from 3 right now?
No.
Oh, he's looking it up. This is unbelievable. He's shooting 45% from 3 right now on 9 3-point attempts per game. That's like Stephen Curry shit, right? Like that's like if you made Stephen Curry like one of the best passers and like processors in the NBA at this point.
Yeah.
Steph is unbelievable. Like Steph has his own gravity as like an off-ball force in a way that Tyrese needs the ball in his hands to like be super, super effective. But it's unbelievable what Halliburton has done. I think he's like, I'm not sure enough people understand that like he's damn close to the Jokic level right now on offense. Jokic is better, but Halliburton has been the second best offensive player in the NBA this season.
He's averaging 27 and 12. Dude, I'll be honest. I don't even look at his stat. Like I look at the stats night to night or whatever. Like I watch the game, I'll see the stats on the screen. I'll check box score, whatever. And I see a stat. I've been like my excitement for him is just purely off of vibes. Like I just watch Pacers games and I'm like, God, I fucking love this guy. I love him so much. I didn't realize he was averaging 27 and 12 and shooting 45% from 3.
He's averaging 27 and 12 with 2.5 turnovers per game. There has never been a player in NBA history that has averaged like 24 points and 9 assists with under 3 turnovers per game.
Oh my!
And he's like blowing that out of the water right now.
With
his play. He is unbelievable. And oh, by the way, like you said, like he's shooting 45% from 3, shooting, what is it, like 88% from the line, something like that, and like 53% from the field. He's like one of the most efficient players in the league. He's one of the best passers in the league. He's one of the best shooters in the league. Again, like I'm not sure people have comprehended that this is the best like non-Jokic offensive player in the league. Now, defensively, there are issues. Like he gets bullied. Like they attacked him pretty relentlessly in the Celtics game.
Like we've already said, it's the NBA. Who cares? We don't need defense. we don't need to talk about that. We're here for.
We don't need to talk about it. But offensively, truly, through the first quarter of the season, he's been the second best offensive player in the league.
It's
awesome. Incredible.
That fires me up, man. Because I feel that when I'm watching, but I'm also like I don't know. I'm a moron, and I'm not watching every NBA game and whatever else. So I'm like I feel like Tyrese Halliburton has to be one of the best players, but. Also saying that out loud, and then you look at like rankings of the best players, and you're like, yeah, I don't know, he's probably not better than Durant. He's probably not better than LeBron, is he? I don't know. And that fires me up that he's top 5. And having said all that, I'm sure they're going to lose to the Bucks by 1,000 tonight, and then we're going to put this out tomorrow and look like morons. Sam, you're the man. Thanks for coming on. I hope the draft evaluation.
Can we take 1 minute and celebrate Rutgers basketball?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, yes, we did. Yeah, we have. I mean, we're fired up, man.
This is already way too heavy of a Rutgers basketball episode from the outside of the interview.
Yeah, we opened the show 15, 20 minutes talking about Rutgers basketball, your family, your religion, and Rutgers basketball. Yeah. No, he's dude, TJ's on one, man. This is everything's coming up TJ these. Have you seen TJ, by the way? He's lost like 100 pounds.
Oh, dude, I've seen the photos on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped for him. I'm excited. I love it. Everything's coming up. TJ, Rutgers basketball's back. Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper. Let's go.
He can't stop stacking W's, this guy, TJ. Yeah. All right, Sam. I hope the draft evaluation gets better for you as the season wears on. Best of luck, buddy. Thoughts and prayers to Sam Vecenie as he has to evaluate this draft class from now until June. Thanks for coming on as always. Appreciate it, dude.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you to Sam. Always a pleasure having him on the show, especially because I don't even know what time he's calling in from Australia. I was about to say he's calling in the middle of the night. I don't know if that's actually true, but let's just go with that. Let's just, every time you see Sam Vecenie on this show, just assume that I have asked him to wake up in the middle of the night in Australia where he lives and call in, and he says yes every time. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter. Go with that story, and we'll continue to think that he's a saint for doing that. Always fun talking to him. All right, before we get out of here, some other stuff. I mentioned at the top Marquette beating Texas. Tyler Kolek had a great game the other night. Marquette looks awesome. But Titus, hang on. You're saying Marquette looks awesome. What about the team that just beat Marquette, Wisconsin? Wisconsin also kind of looking awesome, which it does break my heart. I've given up on the Connor Essegian thing. Like, he's obviously, they don't need him. If you missed it, and a lot of you probably did because it was on Peacock, and who the hell has that? Wisconsin beat. I found out, by the way, that I do have Peacock, TJ. I have no idea how I have it. I never bought it. I have no idea how I have Peacock, but I apparently do. It's not coming out of my bank account. I don't know how I have it.
That's exciting.
I monitor my spending and I see all my transactions, and there's never once been a Peacock transaction. But I was going the other day to I was balking at whether I was going to buy it or not. And I was like, I don't know, man. At some point I'm going to pull the trigger, but it's, I talked to Jake Marsh about it when he was on here. It's a thing of principle with me. I said I'd never do it. But Big Ten basketball's on here. I think I got it. And then I clicked on something and the game just started playing. I was like, what the hell? So anyway, on Peacock, Wisconsin wins in East Lansing, third time in a row. This Wisconsin team is pretty interesting. Interesting Wisconsin team. They can score the basketball. AJ Storr has added a different dynamic to them, and things are rolling. But I can't lie. I am excited for Wisconsin, and I am curious to see what this Wisconsin team can be. I think all Wisconsin fans, and by that I'm just going off of Big Cat's reaction, every time I talk to him about this team, but I think a lot of Wisconsin fans have a cautious optimism with this team. You don't want to get too high, too low, but it is starting to feel like a typical Wisconsin team that I think if you have Sweet 16 aspirations, I don't think that's outlandish at this point. But anyway, my takeaway from the game, as excited as I am for Wisconsin, is that it might be panic button time for Michigan State. I mean, they just aren't playing hard. It looks like a roster that for a group that was bringing so many guys back that had a quote unquote run in the NCAA tournament, which wasn't wasn't a Final Four run, but it was a 7 seed that upsets Marquette in the second round, and had a great game against Kansas State and was right there, and all those guys are coming back. For a team like that, it does feel like they're just completely lost at sea, and they have zero identity, and they don't know any of their roles and how they fit with each other. And it's a very bizarre. If you hadn't been paying attention to college basketball last year and you just tuned in this year, you would watch Michigan State and assume that they're all transfers or freshmen or something else. It's just such a weird mix, and on top of it all, they don't play hard. It's they I don't know. It's time to smash the panic button for me with Michigan State, which I don't know what that means necessarily. I still think they're a tournament team, but why do I think that? It's just vibes. Just because just because it says their chest says Michigan State and Tom Izzo's on the bench, and you trust that they're going to figure it out. There's really been nothing that I can point to and say yeah, that's definitely a tournament team that I've seen from them so far, which is a problem because they were a preseason top 5 team, and they got to figure some shit out. And I know Tom Izzo is the master of manufactured adversity, and every so often Michigan State losing is the best thing that could happen to them because Izzo can bust out the football pads and just motherfuck his team, and then they figure it out. That's kind of the formula, but I think there's been enough adversity. I think at this point, if there is a button to push for Michigan State, they should start push, not the panic button. I'm talking about the stop fucking sucking button. If that button exists, which I've always been led to believe it does, and that's how Tom Izzo operates, is that they look like they're bad and then he pushes the button and suddenly they're good. They should go ahead and push that button because I'm officially worried about Michigan State. Staying in the Big Ten, team I'm not worried about, Illinois. Damask and Terrence Shannon against FAU were balling, man. Both those guys were awesome. Damask was just cooking there for a second where he was just there's something about that arena. I mean, Madison Square Garden, this is not breaking news, I know, but I do roll my eyes a lot of times at traditions or narratives, if you want to call it that, or reputation, whatever, where people are like, man, you don't know, it's the Cameron Crazies are on a different level. They're just a different type of student section. I'm like, all right, I get it, but like, let's be honest. There's a lot of what do they do? They're college kids that chant and clap their hands when their team scores. Like every student section does that. Like, come on, it's not that big of a difference. And I'm saying that to say that like sometimes the circle jerk around Madison Square Garden, or at least I do. Sometimes I catch myself like wanting to roll my eyes and be like, it's just a basketball arena. And then every so often you see a game like Illinois is playing against FAU where Marcus Damask and Terrence Shannon are just balling, dude. They're just hoopered. They're just like two dudes. Just Marcus Damask is staking his claim as a cold ass white boy out there in the world's most famous arena. And I'm watching this, and then Cam Spencer's doing it, by the way, against Carolina, and that game was awesome too. And I'm like, yeah, there's something to this place. I mean, there really is. Like something happens when you play in Madison Square Garden, and like guys just step it up a level, and that was a ton of fun to watch. But yeah, this Illinois team. Like I said at the top, and Ant Wright and I talked about this when he was on, I think there's something cooking there because Illinois under Brad Underwood there's been no shortage of talent. They have been very, very talented. They have won the Big Ten. They've gotten a 1 seed, which Illinois fans don't want to talk about what happened after they got the 1 seed, but they did get the 1 seed, and Io DeSumo and Kofi Coburn and like they've had dudes come through. And this team in particular, I don't want to say it's the best team he's ever had or whatever, but like the last couple years have been rocky in the sense that like trying to figure out what the roles are on the team and who wants to play defense tonight. Let's all find out together. And it's just whose turn is it to shoot the ball? We don't know. All right, I have the ball. I guess it's my turn. There's a lot of that going on. And I feel like this team, this feels more like a basketball team instead of a collection of talent. And I'm really excited to see what this Illinois team can become. Coleman Hawkins is a guy who gives them a different dynamic, like a 5-man. But he's been that way for a few years, and sometimes he can be frustrating. If they can keep him like on the straight and narrow with the talent that he has and the ability the flexibility, I should say, that he brings to their lineups with Terrence Shannon, and if Damask plays like this, and Luke Goody, and just on down the line, dude, they still have a ton of talent. It feels like, I think I said this to Ant, they have a little less talent, I think, on the whole, but it all fits better together so far, what I'm seeing out of this team. And big win, FAU. FAU was playing a lot better. FAU had the stinker against Bryant, and that's just like a complete anchor on their NCAA tournament resume that they're gonna have to figure out eventually. But they've been playing a lot better since then, and they are going to end up being a good basketball team if they're not already. So this is a big win for Illinois. They got an even bigger one, I think, in Knoxville. It is in Knoxville, right? I think it is in Knoxville. I think that's a true road game for Illinois. Let me double check. Yeah, it is. That's a home game for Tennessee. That'll be a big one too. That's not an easy place to win, and Tennessee's a great basketball team. And I every time I say this, Tennessee fans get mad. This is not me saying that it's rigged. It's not me saying anything else. I'm just stating the obvious that like Tennessee fans are out of their fucking minds, and Tennessee plays very physical basketball, and Tennessee, the basketball team, will foul the shit out of you. The refs will start calling it. The fans will go bananas. They'll go ape shit. They'll start chanting stuff. They'll be very loud. The refs will look around and they will say, yeah, I would prefer to get out of this environment alive, and they will stop blowing their whistle. And that's what makes it hard. And Tennessee is very smart and understands that, and that's kind of the dynamic of playing there in Knoxville. And that's not, Tennessee fans get upset. That's not a criticism. It's truly not, because there are a lot of arenas you could say that about. Like, that's not unique to Tennessee. There are a lot of arenas you could say that about. But Tennessee leans into it with like how physical they play on defense, and they're obviously a good basketball team. So that would be a huge W for Illinois if they can pull it off. But I like what I'm seeing out of this Illinois team. They don't even have to win at Tennessee. It's not like if they lose at Tennessee, I'm gonna be like, never mind. I take it all back. They actually suck. UConn beating Carolina. I do like this Carolina team. This Carolina team, I for all the headlines that Carolina was making last year for the wrong reasons, I think this team is I don't think it was just Caleb Love being the scapegoat, but if you want to go with that, that's I mean, the proof is kind of in the pudding. I do think they're playing a lot better basketball. It looks a lot more like typical North Carolina basketball to me. Cadeau is I don't think he's been like otherworldly, but he's been He's been solid for them from what I've seen. RJ Davis and Baycott are like, I don't love Baycott maybe as much as you're supposed to love a guy who's been an All-American. Has he been he's been an All-American, right? Or flirted with I don't know. He's just, Baycott's one of those dudes that's just like always in the mix when you're talking about the best big men in college basketball. And I don't necessarily, he doesn't excite me as a basketball player, but at the same time, you can't ignore his production that he brings. I like what I'm seeing out of this Carolina team, but UConn's on a completely different level. And I think if you're a UConn fan, you're very much thinking back-to-back titles, and I don't blame you. The Big East is going to be a ton of fun. And I know I saw a lot of, after the Big East Big 12 Challenge, a lot of Big 12 people are pointing at that and saying the Big 12 is the better conference. I think that's a fair assessment. I think the Big 12, especially how hot a lot of these teams are. I mean, we said it the other day. There's like 6 of the 14 undefeated teams are in the Big 12. It's crazy. The Big 12 was already supposed to be good, and then you factor in like BYU kind of coming out of nowhere. Oklahoma's been a little bit of a surprise. TCU's having a good season. The Big 12 is way deeper. The Big 12 is definitely a better conference. I still think the Big East is going to be more interesting. I think when conference play starts in earnest and we get rolling, I think the Big East race is going to be more interesting, but I could be wrong on that. I don't know. Could be wrong. Big 12 has a ton of great teams. Houston looks really good. Kansas is very good. The Big 12 will be a gauntlet as it always is, but there's just something about the Big East. I like having that dynamic of Marquette winning everything in the league last year, but UConn winning the national championship, and both of those both those programs think that they are the cream of the crop in that conference. And meanwhile, Creighton is a team that has been knocking on that door for a while, and they're pretty excited about the team that they have. And the mid-tier, the Big East it falls off, but I think it's compelling, and I think like having Ed Cooley and Rick Pitino and Thad Matta suddenly has a team that's not the worst in the conference, and on down the line, Xavier is interesting, and I don't know. The Big East has got me fired up, but the Big 12 is the best conference. I mean, if we're being objective about it, the Big 12 is going to be a better conference. But UConn looks fucking awesome, and Marquette is playing great basketball too. Speaking of the Big East, before we go, I wanted to point out that DePaul is hosting Louisville in Chicago on Saturday, and I'm really torn up about not going to this game because I had made plans to go to Hinkle Fieldhouse with my dad on Saturday. We're going to go to the Butler-Cal game, which last year I went to the Butler-Cal game in Berkeley last year. It was one of the sadder college big time for a game between two power conference teams. That was probably the saddest atmosphere I'd ever seen. There were like 40 people at that game. So I figured, what the hell? I'll go to it was a home and home situation with Butler-Cal. I figured I'd go to the second game. But I'm really mad at myself because Louisville-DePaul has a chance to be just one of the all-time sicko basketball games. I mean, those programs are both just doo-doo stinky pants.
Both net rankings in the 270s.
Which I don't even know they went that low. I thought the net rankings, you get to like 150, you just stop. And they're just like, we don't care anymore at this point. But, yeah, Louisville's playing DePaul in Chicago. I got to figure out what DePaul game I'm going to go to. I would like to go to a DePaul game, but Butler doesn't come here until March, I think. I think it's like one of the last Big East. I think it's like March 2nd, the last or the second to last regular season Big East game. So I got to figure out. Maybe does Marquette come here? Watching Marquette like run up the score on DePaul would be very funny. Maybe I go to that game. I gotta figure that out. But Louisville's playing DePaul, so shout out to if you're an absolute college basketball pervert, watch that game. But my dad and I, as I said, will be in Hinkle, and now that we've moved on to the shout outs portion of the program, I want to start by shouting out my father, who has just completely set West Lafayette on fire, as he typically does when he comes on the show, talking smack about Zach Edey. Purdue fans are fired up. They are fired up. They do not like Coach Titus. And I got to say, you are all feeding the troll. He called me the other night, TJ, and was just like cackling on the phone. He's like, they're so mad at me. I did it.
That's exactly, yeah.
And I was dying. But an unintended victim of my father's just criticism, I guess you would say, of Zach Edey is Evan Turner. I didn't even see this. Cody pointed this out to me, that Evan Turner, who has been on the program. I would consider Evan Turner officially a friend of the program now. He tweets the clip. It was from the Titus Show account. It was the Titus Show account. The clip of Coach Titus saying Zach Edey isn't good. He's just tall. And ET says, I respect your view because you actually know what you're talking about, but just think how many bigs have we seen that don't produce at a quarter of the rate he does or even be able to catch a ball in traffic and finish. Different view when you compare him to Kenny George, not Greg Oden, etc. So Evan's respect of my father is very funny. Not to say my father shouldn't be respected, but like Evan treats my father like he's Phil Jackson for some reason. And he's always been that way. He's always been like, Mark, I kind of hate you, but your dad is cool and knows his shit and everything. But that cracked me up when Cody pointed that out to me, and then I went to Twitter and saw that Evan was mixing it up with my dad's just like firing from the hip takes on Zach Edey, which like again, I assume most people watching and listening have gotten used to what Coach Titus is about. It's literally just because Zach Edey plays for Purdue. If Zach Edey played for any other team, I don't think he would care that much. But he watches him play for Purdue, and he's like, I hate that kid. It's called a rivalry. He hates Purdue. But that cracked me up, and Evans offering his like very measured take that he's like, compared to Kenny George, Zach Edey's actually good, but compared to Greg Oden, he's not that good. That cracked me up. So shout out to Dad, content creator. That's what my dad does. Coach Titus comes on the show, creates content, gets the people talking. For what it's worth, I had way more Indiana people reach out to me and say I love your father than he's the best, and he is the voice of the Hoosiers, more so than Purdue people that were fired up. So Coach Titus, if you don't like Coach Titus, if you listen to the show, watch the show, and you don't like Coach Titus, I have some bad news. You're gonna have to get over. You're gonna have to stop watching and listen to the show because I'm not gonna stop bringing him on when I feel like he's got something to say. Other shout outs. I want to shout out Will Wade at McNeese State University for just a master class of college basketball scheduling. McNeese played, and when was this game? I got to pull this up now because this blew my mind that I did not even realize that this was possible. Let me pull this up. This was 2 days ago. McNeese. Yep. McNeese. There it is. McNeese State versus. Yep, 92-23 was the final score. McNeese State on 12-5, which was Tuesday night, beat a team called, and I shit you not, TJ, this was the real name of this team, the Mississippi University for Women. Now you're saying to yourself, are you sure this was not the women's team at McNeese State that played the Mississippi University for women? Yeah, I am. I'm sure. It is the men's team at McNeese State played Mississippi University for women, and they won 92-23. So that happened. The Mississippi University for women had 9 points at halftime. It was 47-9 at halftime. Just an unbelievable. Mincy, by the way, I think is tight with Will Wade, because every time I talk to Mincy, he tells me that I can get Will Wade or Chris Beard on the show whenever I want, and I don't have the heart to tell them like
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, Mincy, like I guess they would probably have something interesting to say, but like. I mean, Will Wade and Chris Beard are not exactly
jump out. Yeah,
they're not exactly like good guys. You know, like these are not two guys that.
Oh man, they're second act of life. They're all
second life.
We're all trying to get.
Yeah, we're all kidding. We all deserve a second.
Tell them we need a connection at the Mississippi University for Women. What was it called?
Yeah, Mississippi University for Women. I need to know everything about this school, this basketball team. How, why, what, all of it. I'm looking at the box score right now. I think Mississippi University for Women basketball team was actually men, but I don't know for sure. I don't know. There's a Michael Smith Jr. There's a Cam Smith that started. He was 0 for 7. He had 4 rebounds, 2 fouls. Tariq Islamovich had 7 turnovers, was 1 for 4 from the field. Their leading scorer was Islamovich. He had 5 points. I'm going to assume that these are all dudes. Josh Dukes, that feels like a guy's name, right?
I think he works at Barstool.
Yeah. But anyway, that cracked me up. I saw that I was like screwing around with my score app or whatever, and I like went to the all-con, like give me So every so often I'm like, you know what? Give me every game that happened in college basketball tonight. And I was scrolling through and I was like, who the hell did McNeese State play?
Yeah.
Mississippi University for the women. What else? Grand Canyon, first ever AP Top 25 win. Grand Canyon student section is my favorite cult in college basketball. Happy for that program. They are a school that I don't fully understand, but I always try to say nice things about them because I realize that it does feel like it's a Illuminati type cult that just like popped out of nowhere in the desert and suddenly got good at basketball. And it makes no sense to me how it happened or why it happened, but I respect it nonetheless. And Grand Canyon beat San Diego State. First ever AP Top 25 win in that program's history. Are you aware, TJ, of the Grand Canyon student section?
They've been like I feel like the Barstool account has been posting videos from their student section since like 2017, 2016,
it's been a little while now. Yeah,
the Lopes. Right?
The Lopes. Yep, they've built a reputation as just. I don't know, they're like tripping on Molly or something. Like I don't know how to describe them to people that haven't seen videos. Yeah, they're just hammering ayahuasca and fucking tripping balls in the
ayahuasca student section would be crazy.
Yeah, I think that's what they do some. I don't know. It is fucking bonkers. I went to a double. I've never been to a game at Grand Canyon, but I went to a double header in Phoenix one time where Grand Canyon was playing. And were they playing in the second? I think they were playing in the second game. I think it was Tennessee Gonzaga. It was like the Tennessee team with Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield was playing Gonzaga with like Rui Hachimura. And then the second game I think was Eric Musselman's Nevada team versus Grand Canyon. And the Grand Canyon students, if I remember correctly, showed up for the first game, and the student section was just completely packed for the first game. And they were like tripping balls for the first game. And I remember just sitting there watching this, like, this is a different breed of human being. Like this, like what? I've never seen anything like this. And again, I try to like acknowledge that they're different and goofy a little bit, but also I want to not make fun of them too much because I'm terrified of what these people are capable of. Like they were there for the, like when the way doubleheaders works usually is that the school students only kind of show up for the second game when it's their team's turn to play. They were like packed. It was completely packed for the first game. They start like chanting shit during the free throws as the first game's going on. They're trying to like make guys miss for reasons unbeknownst to me. It was wild. And I've had an immense respect for them ever since. And I've always wanted to go to a game, so I need to put that on my list too. We got to go to a Grand Canyon game and figure out what drugs we're doing before we go to that game. Make that video. Yeah, I'll go with Donnie maybe. Maybe Donnie and I go to.
I think Vice, back when Vice was the cool media outlet, they used to do like, we sent one of our editors to monster trucks and had him do acid for the first time. Maybe it's like Donnie and Mark do acid and go to a Grand Canyon.
Do acid and go to a Grand Canyon game and try to infiltrate the student section.
Yeah,
and just see what happens. That would be awesome. Oh, last thing before I go, happy birthday to my dog, Moses. I haven't made a ton of Moses content here at Barstool, but if you followed me throughout my career, Moses has every so often pops in for. I use my dog for content every so often. He's really good at filling out March Madness brackets. We're gonna do that for it. Last year I couldn't do it because I was in New York and he was in LA and it was a whole thing. But this year I'll get Moses to fill out his bracket for everybody. We'll do that on the show. But Moses turned 13, and I love him so much. And I don't know. I fucking love that dog, and I just wanted to. He listens to the show, by the way. He's the number one college basketball fan of all dogs, no question about it. He watches more college basketball. You will not find a dog that watches more college basketball. When I leave the house, if I got to run. And it's like a game. There's a game on that like I'm not particularly interested in. I'll just throw it on and let Moses watch. That's why he's better than me. He's better than me at filling out brackets. But yeah, I've had Mose basically his entire life, and he's 13 years old, and he's still full of life, man. I fucking love that dog so much, and happy birthday to him. I want to go home and just throw a ball around with him. I'm just gonna go home and toss a ball around with him. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Thank you so much to everybody who's watching, listening. Yeah, let's have a fun weekend, man. Wisconsin, Arizona. I forgot to even talk about that, but Wisconsin's playing Arizona in Vegas, which I expect Arizona to win. Wisconsin's in a great spot because If they win, it's a massive, massive win, and I think you start getting very, very excited about what this season is. If you lose, Arizona might be the best team in the country, so who really cares? That doesn't derail your season or take away what you've done so far. And also, you kind of own Arizona in the NCAA tournament, so you'll always have that trump card. So Wisconsin kind of can't lose. But yeah, that'll be a fun game. Illinois at Tennessee, obviously, and Oklahoma plays Arkansas too in Tulsa, which should be a pretty good game as well. Everybody have a great weekend.
Caitlin Clark.
What happened?
Caitlin Clark.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Caitlin Clark, 3,000 points. Great call. Caitlin Clark scored 3,000 points. She's so fun to watch.
She's smashing the Iowa football team in every scoring, points per game stat.
Yeah, dude. She's so fun to watch. I was watching the other night, when she was playing Iowa State. I was watching and just cackling at the television every time she pulls up from deep and just takes the dumbest shots, and they all go in. And she is the biggest star in college basketball, no question about it.
I hope she's making money. I think she is.
She's got the State Farm ads, right?
She's selling out road games.
Oh yeah,
Rutgers women's basketball is selling out a game when she comes to town for the first time in 15 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
She literally moves the needle more than any men's player.
Any individual.
By far. Yeah. Nobody's Zach Edey's a good basketball player, but nobody's going to Purdue games just to see Zach. Nobody's oh shit, Zach Edey's coming to town. It's oh, Purdue's coming to town and they're ranked whatever. Caitlin Clark is on that level where people are just buying tickets to see her. She's awesome. She's so fun to watch, and we got to talk more women's basketball on this show. I gotta get better at that because I love watching it, and people think I'm I don't know, you know how people get.
Yeah. LSU super team.
Your virtue signaling or whatever the fuck people
say.
Right. It's I promise you, I will never talk about women's basketball unless I'm really into it, and I will not lie to you. I was watching Caitlin Clark, and I was very into watching her. 3,000 points, just a skosh more than me, TJ. Just a skosh. She's putting me out of reach now. There was a moment there where it was we were kind of neck and neck on career points, but I think she's kind of put me in a rearview mirror for my 9 career points. I think, I think the bar graph of how many career points we have is, I don't think I can fudge it anymore. I don't think I can make it look good.
You're selfless. You're a selfless player.
Yeah,
that's true. Let other guys shine,
That is true.
It's not all about Mark.
Well, I've tried to point out to people that everyone says you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you really think about it, the walk-ons on the team are the people who deserve all the credit for success.
Yes.
So really, Caitlin Clark in Iowa, they're not winning because of her. They're winning because of the weakest link on the team and not her. Whereas, my Ohio State teams, we were winning because of me, because I was the weakest link. And I was stronger than all the other weakest links. So, So that's, So,
Yeah.
All right, everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you on the other side.